Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Zimbabwe is a failed state. We have been stuck for 45 years and counting with a corrupt, incompetent, and tyrannical ZANU-PF dictatorship. The truth is, in those 45 years, we have had many golden opportunities to end the dictatorship, but we've wasted those opportunities. Again and again, when we should do the right thing, we fail to do so. Here is a clip of ZANU-PF blatantly rigging the 2013 elections. And it's caught on video. Here we go.
How can we cheat like this? There are some buses which are here. Two buses there. One sits in Mount Pleasant. One sits. I think we shouldn't allow this. Officer, we don't want to be accused of disrupting this, but this is not on. We can't allow this. Ask anyone who's clean show van. Ask this one, where does he stay in Mount Pleasant?
I am saying to my senior at Mount Pleasant.
All right, I'm going there. Yeah. But you can see his reading.
Yeah, but we'll take note of
that.
Yeah,
but you don't take note of them. Stop around.
That's why
stop around. Because this is not on that we can have this blatant cheating. They're from the raw areas, yes. Yeah. Taken to think. And then posting as officers. They've been passed by those buses, as you can see. As one of them, a single address in Mount Pleasant. Just one. You need a bus to come from Morris Depot. Morris Depot is just across the road. You need a bus to come from Morris Depot.
But their sleeps are retained Mount Pleasant.
So why were they taken with buses?
Just take a sample of 5. Go to the voters room with the slips. You find them not in the voters room.
They're not in the voters room.
But their sleeps are retained Mount Pleasant, so we don't have the powers. So
when you are recruited, you have to shave your head into the police.
So they are the police in a role.
Not genuine.
Not genuine.
Those fake ones that like creating for special groups.
Right.
You can see from the cards that it's
Fresh cards and so on.
they are just taken from wherever and then they just shove them.
That one she's about 14 years old. 16 years, young people. And they're confused now.
Yeah.
I answered the question, where did you get these people from? No, it's just a simple question because that's who do what baby. Where exactly? But my friend, you carry people. This question is where did you carry them? It's a simple question. It's a simple question.
yes.
So you need the authority to say that, or you've forgotten where you picked them up. It's unbelievable.
This is the tragedy of Zimbabwe. The elections were blatantly rigged. Here is the evidence where ZANU-PF was passing people, from the rural areas. One of the buses there was written Wonde Valley. And they were bussed in overnight. They had blankets. They were voting in Harare city center, Mount Pleasant. And what some of them, it was found they were not on the voters' roll. And when the returning officer was asked, he said they had voting slips which said Mount Pleasant. This is nothing new. ZANU-PF has been doing this all along. This is what David Coulthard was talking about when he was talking about the blatant, the flawed, so illegal, the only logical step was to withdraw. This was not only happening in Harare, it was happening all over the country. The interesting question is, what did Tendai Biti do? Well, maybe it was because of what he said and the video. The bottom line is, when the results were declared, Tendai Biti was the winner of the Mount Pleasant. And he immediately dropped the whole issue. He didn't challenge why people had been passed in. He didn't want to follow up on a number of other irregularities. One of the most common irregularities in Zimbabwean election has always been that there was no verified voters roll. Tendai Biti and company could not complain about it because when they submitted their nomination, they knew there was no verified voters roll. So the problem with Zimbabwe's failure to hold free, fair, and credible election is as much ZANU-PF's problem as it is the opposition leaders. They've connived with ZANU-PF. In fact, if you go back to the 2008 to 2013 GNU, Tendai Biti and his fellow MDC friends had the golden opportunity to implement the democratic reforms, which would have ensured that institutions like the police, ZEC, the judiciary, were independent and freed from the ZANU-PF control to carry out their duties without fear or favor. They failed to implement even one democratic reform. Why? Well, Mugabe bribed them with the trappings of high office. And the rest, as one would say, was history. We cannot, as a people, keep on denying that we did not have the golden opportunities, or many golden opportunities, to end the ZANU-PF dictatorship. What we have got to be honest with ourselves is we have not had the quality opposition leaders to deliver the democratic changes, even when they had the golden opportunity to do so. That is our problem. I've said it on this platform and I'll say it again. MDC, Triple C, ZANU PF in all but name. There's ZANU PF Team B. They are always playing to make sure that Team A wins and there's legitimacy. They're quite content with winning a few gravy train seats, and they're happy with that. The reality is the ordinary people, the ordinary Zimbabweans, who have risked life and limb to elect them into power, on the understanding that they will deliver the democratic changes necessary to get the country out of this mess of rigged election and bad governance. After 25 years of MDC Triple C on the political stage, we have got to come to the conclusion that these guys will never implement any meaningful reforms to end this ZANU-PF dictatorship. I think we, the people, have ourselves to blame in the sense that we have failed to realize that MDC Triple C leaders are no longer fighting for change, for democratic change in Zimbabwe. They're just paying lip service to it. After 25 years of MDC Triple C on the political stage, they failed to implement even one token reform. That should have set alarm bells ringing in everyone's mind that we do not have competent opposition. But unfortunately, Zimbabweans are an ignorant, gullible, and very naive people. We have wanted to believe the opposition are fighting in our corner, even when there is no evidence that they're doing so. I believe if people like Tendai BT had the courage to say, no, we are not going to, I'm not going to accept that I've won Mount Pleasant. As a party, we really need to look into this mess. How did we get here? How can we allow an election process that is so flawed? Because if ZANU-PF can pass in people from the rural areas in urban centers, where they know that there is a lot more prying eyes, what more in the rural areas? This is why rural areas have remained ZANU-PF strongholds. In the rural areas, ZANU-PF does as it damn well pleases. And people like Tendai BT in the opposition, they have contested these elections and they have fought hard to make sure that they contest in an urban constituency, because they knew in the rural areas they will have no chance. The intimidation is so blatant they have no chance of winning. So they are content with winning the few seats in the urban centers. And their supporters in the urban centers are content that their vote is counted. And yet, millions of ordinary Zimbabweans in the rural areas are being denied a meaningful vote. That should have been the grounds for saying, no, let's sort out this mess. Let's have an electoral process that is clean, free, fair, and credible elections. It is not so difficult to achieve. And yet, after 45 years, we failed to deliver it to our people. The way forward, I believe that Zimbabweans have to accept that the opposition will never deliver change. That is the truth. It is for the people themselves now to demand that the electoral process must be free, fair, and credible. I believe SADC have done the people of Zimbabwe a great service. The SADC election observer mission of the 2023 elections condemned the election process as flawed and illegal. SADC and the AU are the referees in these elections. In 2008, when we had the GNU, it was SADC and the AU who condemned the electoral process and refused to give ZANU-PF legitimacy. And that forced ZANU-PF to sign the global political agreement that led to the GNU. I believe SADC and the AU would have done the same thing in 2023 if Zimbabweans had not participated in those elections in their millions. The challenge, therefore, is stopping Zimbabweans being so naive, ignorant, and gullible that they are conned by the opposition to participate in these flawed elections. That is the only way out. We have got good reasons now to stop participating in these flawed elections. We can turn round to SADC and the AU and say, since your own election supervision, you have condemned the electoral process as flawed. There's not been even one token reform since the 2023 elections. We refuse to participate in another flawed election without the reforms to make sure that the process is finally cleaned up. I don't think SADC and the AU will fail to realize the significance of that. So the issue here is a tug of war. The opposition would want us to participate, to keep participating in these flawed elections. And the rational position is that we should not. And I hope that come 2028, many, many more people in Zimbabwe will begin to see the sheer futility of participating in these flawed elections. I'll give the last word to Dr. Navas Mumba, who was the chairperson of the SADC Election Observer Mission.
Well, thank you so much. First of all, let me be clear that the changing of any dynamic or situation in any of our African countries is a preserve of the citizens of that country, in this case, the Zimbabwean people. An election observation team goes there to support the process by observing and being able to release a statement of our observations that, for instance, in Zimbabwe, we raised several issues of transparency and also the independence of the Electoral Commission and things which happen in many other countries, But at the end of the day, once we produce the report and make it available to the Zimbabwean authorities and eventually to the Zimbabwean people, it really remains the preserve of the Zimbabwean people to fight for the freedoms that they need themselves and to correct those issues that have been observed. The reason why we have multiple observation missions is to ensure that, there is a comparison, taking place between the SADC report and the European Union report, the African Union report. And then they can see that those issues that repeat themselves in all these reports, it's up to the Zimbabwean people. And this is where I appeal to all political leaders, not only in Zimbabwe, especially the elections that are coming in Mozambique, they're coming in South Africa, in DRC. We have to make up our minds that, look, at the end of the day, once the people in the country are given an opportunity to monitor the elections, because they also monitor, it starts not during the day of the elections. They must make sure that the constitutional lacunas that can affect a good election are dealt with months before the election. And they must fight to ensure that there's a level playing field. They should never wait for the time when the election is taking place. They must also insist that the electoral commissions and the governments in those countries abide by international norms in holding democratic elections. And this fight must be more vicious before the election comes.
Well, I couldn't put it better myself. We have done nothing to make sure that elections are free, fair, and credible. And this is why 45 years after independence, we're still failing to hold free, fair, and credible elections. And this is why we are stuck in this rut. Well, the power is it's in our own hands. We do not have to participate in flawed elections. We know that the process is flawed. We know that the opposition leaders, like Tendai Biti, do not care that the process is flawed as long as they win the few seats on the gravy train seats, on the gravy train. We cannot continue to be conned by the likes of Nelson Chamisa coming out with such idiotic claims like, I've plugged all the vote rigging loopholes, when we know he has not done any such thing. Demanding a verified voters roll, we should not just leave it to the opposition to do. We ourselves should be demanding it. We, the people of Zimbabwe, should be demanding it. ZEC has never produced a verified voters roll. ever since Zimbabwe's independence in 1980. Why should we continue to be shortchanged and be denied our right to a meaningful say in the governance of the country? Indeed, why are we shortchanging ourselves? Why are we the ones who are agreeing to participate in a flawed process? So flawed that there is not even something as fundamental as a verified voters roll. I think any opposition party that agrees to participate in a flawed process, we should know immediately that they have not got our interests at heart. And we should stop supporting such opposition parties, such sellout opposition parties. Food for thought. Thank you very much. Have a good day.